Just as a quick disclaimer, these are new games, stuff that has been announced before we are not going to discuss. This does include a couple of games that leaked in the build-up to E3, but we're talking about games that were announced at E3. Number 20 is Outriders. Basically something that's vaguely tied to the Marvel universe, at least possibly, keeping in mind that Square Enix has the Marvel license, and the Outriders served Thanos. We don't know if that actually has anything to do with this game. We'll see as more information comes out. It's a quote-unquote dark modern shooter that's a 3-player co-op made by People Can Fly, the developers behind Bulletstorm and Gears of War Judgment. It's a pretty intense looking game, a lot of fire, a lot of guns, and a lot of people who look like they aren't terribly fazed by guns. And a big monster who's scary, but we don't know a lot beyond that. Still gotta say, looks pretty cool though. Number 19 is Contra Rogue Core, which we got a trailer that shows off how over the top this game is probably going to be. It's a twin stick shooter, it's third person, it's not strictly isometric or anything like that, which is nice because it's definitely nice to see more twin stick games giving you a little bit more view of the action. That being said, it does look very, very, very over the top. It's an alien invasion game. You're tasked with taking the aliens down, and that could be really good or really bad. We will see. I'm going to err on the side of positive here. It looks like fun. Number 18 is Crossfire X, a Western adaptation of the Crossfire online first-person shooter that has taken Asia by storm over the last decade or so. We really only got a cinematic trailer for it, so I can't really give you a lot of gameplay impressions, but it did look at least cool. It is going to have a single-player campaign, and I mean, that's a good start point for me. Number 17 is Spiritfarer, which is kind of being described as if you took the boat from the life to the afterlife and made it into Animal Crossing, which I know sounds utterly absurd, but honestly, from everything I've seen, it looks quite interesting. There is a little bit more of a platformer influence here. It is 2D and hand-painted and very pretty. You end up taking jobs, you take souls from one side of the river to the other, and honestly, it's an interesting and original sounding game that I think is worth a chance. I'll definitely be giving it one. Number 16 is Roller Champions, a game that looks to dethrone Rocket League to some extent. It's basically a roller derby game. You're on skates, you're trying to score points, you're knocking other people down. And from everything that I've seen, it looks surprisingly interesting. It does in a lot of respects feel like something that could very much sort of take on the audience of a Rocket League, but it's a totally different game. It's fast, it's pretty, there's a lot of cool animations in this, and I really want to play it. I haven't had the opportunity to. Those who have actually say it's pretty darn good, so I'm definitely looking forward to Roller Champions. Number 15 is No More Heroes 3, which if you are familiar with the previous games, it's a very quirky assassin game that's filled with absurdity. There's probably no better way to put it than that. What we've seen in the trailer here is some power armor. We've seen kind of a katana lightsaber thing, and in every way, it looks as absurd as the previous games, which we haven't seen one since 2010, at least of the core actual games, and it will be cool to jump back into Travis Touchdown's world. Coming in at 14, Gods and Monsters is like Greek Zelda. And that's obviously not how they're marketing it. I've heard the words innovative used while describing, and, well, maybe kind of Zelda. That's not bad though. I'm not angry about that. Breath of the Wild is a great game. Honestly, I'd like to see more people actually take into account the things that Breath of the Wild does. So when we get the people who made Assassin's Creed Odyssey to be making a clearly inspired by Zelda, open world, Zelda-ish looking game, I'm definitely not mad. I'm intrigued. I'm excited. I want to play it. Coming in at 13, Ghostwire Tokyo is a pretty intense, fairly innovative looking concept in which people are disappearing in a dystopian city. Obviously, it's an exaggerated Tokyo, and we see some ties to various myths, and places you in a position to unravel conspiracies and take on the occult. I really like the game's tagline, "Don't fear the unknown, attack it." I think it's like, alright, I don't know even what it specifically means by attack it. It may just mean take it on, don't be afraid of it, go in, whatever. I think that's a very interesting perspective, especially given how creepy the trailer actually is. Given it comes from Shinji Mikami, the famed Resident Evil visionary, and Akumi Nakamura, who has the kind of enthusiasm for this project you would want, I'm there. I can't wait to play this. I think it's going to be unique. And at number 12, Pistol Whip is a VR game that makes me go, hey, maybe VR games could be very cool. Really quickly, the developers of this game say the words John Wick about 400 times in their announcement video. And I know exactly why. Because it is a rhythm/shooting game that seems a lot like the club scene in the original John Wick as a rhythm game. They talk very specifically about how it's about reaction time, quick accuracy, and trying to get you to feel as though you are an action hero in that type of a situation. It looks amazing. As somebody who needs a little bit more selling on VR games, this was probably the first VR game that I've just immediately been like, yes, that's for me. I'm really looking forward to getting into Pistol Whip. And at 11, Tales of Arise is obviously the newest Tales game. It is a JRPG and it looks very nice. Tales of Berseria came out in 2017. It's a great game. If you haven't played it, you should. And Tales of Arise looks to be just basically building on that. Basically what you would want from a JRPG. The intent apparently is to update the combat system, but it sounds like the story has to do with a large entity ruling over a planet, stripping people of their dignity, resources, and freedom. We all know what we're coming to JRPGs for, and it sounds like exactly what I might want. I love the Tales series. Give me more of the Tales series. Coming in at number 10, LEGO Star Wars: The Skywalker Saga is, of course, the LEGO Star Wars, which is not the most serious retelling of the Star Wars movies. Here, it's going to be the entire 9-film Skywalker saga, which makes me very intrigued. It obviously won't be coming out before the final film of that saga, so obviously it's not going to spoil anything for anybody, but still, that's a clever idea, saying, hey, we're going to do it for all the movies. You're going to buy one game, you're going to play through all the movies in signature LEGO Star Wars style. I'm there. I like LEGO Star Wars. It's fun. It's goofy. It's silly. It's a good release, and it's still Star Wars. Coming in at number 9, Rainbow Six Quarantine kinda has the looks of a more modern Aliens concept, with more of like a blob type, disease type, probably zombie type situation going on. It's a 3-player co-op shooter, and that to me sounds very interesting given it is a Rainbow Six title. It's most likely taking where they went with Outbreak and going with that. I think that's good. That's something I want. I think that concept could work very good as a co-op shooter, but we'll also have to wait to find out more because they were very vague about this game. And at number 8, Carry On is a game that they're calling a reverse horror game for the reason that you play as the monster rather than the people trying to get away from the monster. The premise is you, the monster, are imprisoned in a facility, you're being studied, and you escape. In a way, it looks very much like a Metroidvania to me, as well as kind of a physics puzzle platformer, but like much more violent, much more disturbing in its animation, and honestly really, really good. To me, looking at this just looks like such a great idea. It's not impossible to think of, what if you were the monster? Of course, but for the most part, that type of game isn't really done often or well. Evolve comes to mind. But making it as what looks like a Metroidvania, or at least close to it, as well as really smooth looking, I think Carry On is going to be a winner, and I cannot wait to get my hands on it. Number 7 is Bleeding Edge, which at the moment we're looking at what seems to kind of be a hero shooter in the vein of Overwatch, albeit very punk-oriented and a lot more chaotic. The reason for this is a melee-oriented game, which is a very different prospect than Overwatch. Now, we've seen some pretty cool melee games lately, and this comes to us from Ninja Theory, the developers of Hellblade, which is nothing like this. They claim it's been in development a number of years, but I don't know. I don't know exactly what to make of it just yet. It looks cool though, I'll say that. If the gameplay is actually enjoyable by the time the game comes out, I think it'll probably be a big thing because, again, it looks cool and I like the idea of a melee Overwatch. And at number 6, Deathloop. Oh, I am so excited to see. Deathloop is a first-person action game coming to you from the creators of Dishonored, which if you know me and you know my proclivity towards the Dishonored franchise, I'm ready for more from Arcane. Thanks for stepping in and announcing something, guys. Deathloop is about two quote-unquote extraordinary assassins who clearly cannot be killed. Like from the trailer, they're killing each other and then they reappear and then they fight again. And we don't know exactly what that means, but it looks cool as hell. And it's an Arcane game, so we can assume that there's some kind of supernatural element to it. I can't wait. Deathloop looks awesome. Coming in at number 5, Elden Ring, which is a collaboration between From Software, meaning Hidetaka Miyazaki, and George R.R. Martin of A Song in Ice and Fire / Game of Thrones fame. Now, what we've seen of it is very minimal, and I think you'll probably hear me say that a lot, but I do have to say I think it has the look, so to speak. Obviously, I mean the From Software look. It goes a little bit more high fantasy, and from what we've heard so far, it's going to be more like Dark Souls and Sekiro, and it's going to be bigger than anything they've done before. Coming in at number 4, Blair Witch is definitely something different. I mean, if there was ever a movie that was kind of made in a perfect manner to be a video game, it's Blair Witch. And for whatever reason, we never really got any attempts to adapt it. Blair Witch being a kind of low-budget horror movie that scared the pants off a lot of people because they thought it was real. There had not really been a lot of found footage movies up until that point, and for whatever reason, nobody's really done like a full-blown, hey, I'm gonna attempt to make this movie, but as a game. In that respect, this looks very promising. They've really nailed quite a feel from the trailer that I think is very conducive to what that game would be, and I really look forward to finding out more about it. And at number 3, Baldur's Gate 3 is a sequel to the long-thought-dead series, Baldur's Gate, of course, and in truth, we've seen a very minimal amount of this game. We've just got a cinematic trailer, we just know that it exists. The devs were on stage, they talked a little bit, not a lot. I think we are all excited to know that the developers of Divinity Original Sin 2 are making the next Baldur's Gate game. I mean, that's a big piece of information, but beyond that, we have lots of questions. We saw no gameplay, we got no real specifics, but hey, we know we're going to get Baldur's Gate 3 before Half-Life 3, right? That's a pretty interesting fact. And at number 2, Watch Dogs Legion is an ambitious jump in the Watch Dogs series. Obviously, when the original came out, there were certain expectations, and they didn't quite manage it, but Watch Dogs 2, on the other hand, was a huge jump. Now, rather than rest on the laurels, it looks very much like they're attempting to do even more. That's great, because Watch Dogs 2 is a significantly better game than Watch Dogs 1. In a lot of ways, they do attempt to continue the path they were on with Watch Dogs 2, but they're adding things like a recruitment system, an old lady you can play as, which I'm not going to complain about, that's hilarious. And it seems like with Watch Dogs 2, they delivered on the promise of Grand Hack Auto, and it seems like they're expanding. I'm excited to see what they do with it. It's in London, it's very different setting-wise, and looks cool to me. And finally, number 1, Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild 2. Like, let's just go ahead and be very frank here. Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild is a great game. It's a game that sometimes takes a little bit of time to warm up to because it is very restrictive, very limiting, and can be pretty harsh regarding your weapons. But once you get into it, it's amazing, and seeing it gone and kind of not having things to do in it anymore was kind of sad in a way. Lo and behold, Nintendo's like, hey, we're gonna give you more of that. Alright, Nintendo, I'm there for it. Which of these games are you most interested in? What shows the most potential? What do you think will be the coolest when it actually comes out? Leave us a comment, let us know what you think, and if you're not subscribed, now's a great time to do so. We upload brand new videos every day of the week, and the best way to see them first is, of course, a subscription, so click the subscribe button and the notification bell. As always, we thank you very much for watching this video. I'm Falcon, you can follow me on Twitter at Falcon the Hero, and we'll see you next time, right here on GameRanks.